Good evening and welcome.
It's all solved.
Those of you who are rowdy at the end of the table. Good evening and welcome to the October 9th, 2013 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First on the agenda is minutes of October 2nd. And I can see that
I did not read them.
no one's quite prepared,
No one's quite prepared.
and I am certainly not prepared since I wasn't here at the meeting. So we'll have those next week. Request for a continuance under a determination of applicability. Pinecrest Beach Improvement Association, Lakeshore Drive North, East Falmouth, for permission to open a 4-foot path in the existing 10-foot wide right-of-way for access to Jenkins Pond and to install a split rail fence. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chair, the applicant is requesting a continuance until October 16th.
So move. Second.
Any comments on the board? Any comments from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is a continuance to October 16th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability to determine whether the proposed work will remove, dredge, fill, build upon, degrade, and/or otherwise alter an area subject to protection. Scott Anderson, Quahog Pond Lane, West Falmouth, for permission to install a new gas main line and gas service to houses 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20 Quahog Pond Lane along the edge of the existing traveled way. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, we've reviewed the project. We're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So move. Second.
Any questions on the board? If any of you, if there are any questions from the audience, if you hear a negative determination, that means the proposed work will not remove, dredge, fill, build upon, degrade, and/or otherwise alter an area, which means you don't have to go in for a notice of intent. So that's kind of what you want to hear. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. That means the work can go ahead as discussed with staff. Continued request for determination of applicability. Pinecrest Beach Improvement Association has a continuance till 10/16. Are we getting close to a resolution on that? This is the second continuation. Tom, would you like to come and discuss that?
I can just discuss it, I haven't had time.
But you have to tell us who you are.
Really?
Yes.
Tom Bunker. Tom Bunker with BSS Design. This was filed by the Pinecrest Beach Association, and I kind of
You
not
got
took it
pulled in
over,
at the
but
end.
now I have to kind of catch up, and I haven't had quite a time to finish the plans, so I'll have them in later this week for next week.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. You got pulled into it partway through the project.
yes,
Hopefully, it's something we can get through the system.
of course it is.
Oh, good.
I like the attitude, Don.
All right. So that's, we're going to, as everybody heard, we're going to hear that next week. Westminster Land Company, Inc., 23 Zell Street, East Falmouth, for permission to repair 23 pier pilings by rebuilding lost sections with hydraulic cement using Forma Glass 24 fiberglass wrap. You know what that is?
Yep.
And 3 millimeter high density polyethylene.
Madam Chairman, we've reviewed the project. We have requested that the applicant bring the dog into compliance, which it now is, and we're recommending a -2 under the state and bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the board? So it wasn't in compliance, and with this request, they've now brought it into compliance?
Yes, because,
Yes?
yes.
Okay. The motion on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for a hearing under a notice of intent for permission to remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, and/or otherwise alter an area subject to protection. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Stephen and Nancy Weinstein, 230 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, for permission to remove invasive plants, restore with the native plant community, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I don't believe the applicant's representative is here, so can we table that?
She should be here momentarily.
Okay,
Can we table it, Madam
Yeah.
Chairman? Thank you.
but I need it, but I,
Motion to table.
thank you.
Second.
We'll just continue on until she shows up.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, 2 seconds. You can choose which one. To table, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved. I bet we're gonna need to table the next one. Continued request, no? For hearing under a notice of intent, Wigwam Sipawicit Trust, care of Silvestro Calabrese, trustee, 8 Wigwam Road, West Falmouth, for permission to install an elevated generator, repair, and reconstruct an existing licensed stone riprap approximately 250 linear feet in length, construct access over a coastal dune and beach, restore the construction access route and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Is this just for natural heritage?
No, Madam Chairman, they're requesting a continuance until October 23rd so that they can put the public access signs up that they promised the board prior to you guys
Oh,
continuing the hearing.
and so we can still go out and check the public access signs again?
Yes, hopefully the public access signs will be shipped and installed by the 23rd.
All right.
Madam Chair, how many continuances is this?
Well, they
this is-
opened the hearing last time. You continued it to today so that they could put the public access signs up. They haven't been able to do that yet.
Yeah, I think that's fine, Courtney.
Okay.
We don't,
And then, so.
we don't want to close this until they comply with
Yeah.
what they were supposed to have done 2 times
I
before.
don't think actually I'm.
on that?
Yeah, I'm probably not even on the quorum, so I should shut up.
Were you on? I think you were on.
Yes, you will.
I had a
Oh.
triple espresso.
No, we wasn't. I take it back. Courtney was not.
All right, so we want, who was on the quorum?
Mario, Mike, Betsy, Tom, Michelle, Tommy.
Oh, okay,
No,
we're good.
I would not be on that. I'd have to recuse myself.
So Betsy, Mike, Tommy, and Mario. Okay,
Okay, so it's enough.
that's enough. Cross Tom off. mine.
Otherwise, you couldn't move.
That's it, we won't let you
can't.
move, that's decided, that's it.
Oh, boy.
Okay, there's a motion, no, is there a motion? Is there a motion on the table to continue this to the 23rd?
If you would like, I can make that.
Is he on the quorum?
No.
No.
No, you're not on the quorum, you can't
So I
make it.
I'll
can't-
move to continue it to
Thank you, Michelle.
October 23rd.
Could I have a second?
Second.
He can't, he's not
Oh,
on it
he
either.
can't either.
Mike, I can.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to continue to October 23rd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Diane Durkin Cootie, 350 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, for permission to construct an addition, relocate an existing septic tank, remove a tree, install dry wells, utilities, tree and shrub mitigation planting, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Who has this one?
Mr. Bunker.
By the way,
I see,
they're
Yeah,
here
we
for
I
the
see.
other one.
But let's take care of this one
I
first.
think I got disconnected from her earlier today.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chairman,
Tom
Mike, can you
Bunker with
read the
BSS
quorum,
Design.
please?
Wait, you're gonna give us that,
I have
he's
a
gonna
few
read the
more
quorum.
cards.
You have a few more? Oh,
I have a few more
Right.
cards.
yeah.
Mario, Mike, Tom, Michelle, and Courtney.
Oh, yeah, last week, okay.
Just last week.
Yeah, I'm good with that, Tom, go on.
So
Tom,
when-
we're ready for you.
when last we met, I explained, I talked with Jen about recalculating the mitigation planting area, which I now have revised mitigation planting calculations on the plan, added another 250 square feet of native shrubs. Diane Cartier is talking with the other condo owners about several things, one of which is possibly reducing the size of her house, but another is putting some of this planting in the common area. But right for now, I have it shown up along the street on her exclusive use area.
Oh, okay.
And that's what was asked of me, and that's what I've done.
And it's in the same lot? It's in the
Yes.
common area?
No, it's not. It's
Oh,
on,
I
What
can't ask
happened-
questions on this anyway.
I counted the common area, I counted 1/3 of the disturbed area of the
Yep.
common area, and then 10% of that has to be replanted. And the ideal location from a conservation point of view is was within the common area closest to the wetland. But until she gets permission from the other co-owners, we're putting it up here, but trying to get permission to put it in the common area. Ideally, all of it in the common area.
That's fine, Tom. And if we can move it back after negotiations, that's fine.
You can write an order
Yeah,
to that
I
effect.
move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Second.
You want to do this, guys?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Are there
just-
any further questions on the board?
Yeah,
Yes, Gordon.
just a question. So the way this is going to be done then is that for the sake of the approval of this, or the decision is that we will allow the plantings within the lot that,
Yes.
but that at some point down the road, if you get permission, then the plantings can be moved. Do we need to, does that require a file for an amendment?
No, I'll write it in.
It doesn't have to, it can just be written into the
Yeah.
order.
Yeah, I can
So
write
you
that,
might
I can
write
write
it
that
in,
into
yeah.
the order.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Any questions in the audience? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Motion to
Thank you.
untable 230 Quistit Ave.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to on-table 230 Quistit Ave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Stephen and Diane Weinstein, 230 Quistit Ave, for permission to remove invasive plants, restore with a native plant community and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I will save any of my comments until after Ms. Egner's presentation.
Good evening.
Good
Good to see
evening.
you again.
Good to see you
Earlier
again
in
as
the
well.
evening than the last time.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate that, even though in 2 years, my first time being even remotely late for a hearing, so I apologize. For the record, my name is Jennifer Exner from Wilkinson Ecological Design, here representing the property owners at 230 Quistit Avenue. The proposal has a lot of different facets to it, so I'm going to try and just give a summary presentation and then let you ask any questions that you have. So overall, this property is approximately 7 acres in size. It was once part of a historic estate in that area, with the current residence being one of the old buildings that was a part of that estate. As an estate property, it has been maintained, or at least portions of it have been maintained in a similar manner for many years. When we were first approached by the property owners, we quickly realized that this property was very special, as it contained a wide range of site conditions which we felt would be conducive to supporting a wide variety of plant community types. That's not something that we encounter very often on properties. Usually we're dealing with properties that have the ability to support one, maybe two different types of communities. So we thought that this provided a lot of opportunity. Because of the very nature of the property, we divided the areas that we were interested in into 5 distinct areas, which are shown on the graphic that I have there, as well as in the land management plan. We thought it was just a little bit easier to divide it out by area rather than try and give you a whole big list of things that were there or being proposed to be managed. In summary, with those areas, Area 1 is within the BVW. It's comprised of an intact shrub-scrub border, which is directly adjacent to the pond edge, for about 1/3 of that Area 1. The outer 2/3 of the area, the more upland, I wouldn't call it upland, but towards the upland side of that BVW is contains a monoculture band of willow, most of which are gray willow hybrids, and as well as invasive and non-native species. A full list of the observed plant species is also included in the appendix within the land management plan. We are proposing the removal of the willow, invasive and non-native species throughout this area, and to expand that shrub-scrub border and introduce a native wet meadow community to this property, which we feel has the ability to support a wide variety of pollinator species which are not currently present. A notable wetland species in this area at the very northern end here, actually, was water willow. Not to be confused with anything from the Salix genus. That particular plant species is a critical host plant to water willow stem borer, which is a moth, and it's a state-threatened species. Adult moths do hatch and are flying during late September, early October, so this is the perfect time of year to be able to go out there and actually take a look at the stems to see if there is any activity from those moth larvae hatching and chewing through. So that's something that's really exciting. We've only observed that on one other property, and it was in Chatham, a wetland of a similar type. So currently we haven't observed anything there, but when we started the project, it wasn't the right time of year to look for that.
Where
So
is
that's-
it again, Jen?
Yep, the area, there's a lot of hibiscus mosquitoes as well as the water willow.
Oh, yeah, up in
And
there,
as you
yeah.
look, as you look across, you can see when the hibiscus mosquitoes is blooming, you can see it in there. There's also a picture in the land management plan. So that was kind of an exciting thing that we were seeing out there that we'll be keeping our eye on this fall to see if we have any signs of that moth. Area 2, which is just adjacent and around the end of the pond on the northern end, is the mitigation area that was from a previous filing, which still has an open order of conditions. The reason that order of conditions is still open is because of monitoring requirements which were not met. We are looking to assume the responsibility of that old order of conditions so that when monitoring occurs with this project, we can roll those mitigation plantings and anything from that previous filing into it, hopefully make your paperwork a little bit easier to follow. Any of those mitigation plantings that have not survived would be replaced as a part of that. The area 3 is up near the house, and the reason we included that as a management area is because there's Japanese knotweed, which is growing along the foundation of that house, as well as sporadically into the woodland. We've found, well, and you can just find the studies anywhere, but Japanese knotweed was a special concern of ours, especially growing next to a historic structure with a stone foundation like this. We certainly do not want that species to be able to impact that foundation in a negative manner, as it has been shown to grow through pavement and concrete and foundations and all sorts of other things. Let's see. Area 4, which is towards the coastal bank on the edge of the woodland, does contain some old landscape type plantings. There were a few more ornamental species in there, as well as invasive and non-native species, and some native woodland species. We are proposing to replace any of the non-native or invasive species with woodland edge. Area 5 is on the coastal bank. This area was a part of that previous filing that those mitigation plantings were for. That area, with the order of conditions that was issued for that area, there are parts of that coastal bank where the special condition allows the property owners to maintain that vegetation to a height of 4 feet. Rather than promote a continuous maintenance activity within that resource area, we're proposing to remove invasive species as well as other types of taller native species like sapling or seedling trees that are coming up within the hatched area shown on the plan. And I did look into that, Jennifer. I know you and I had a little bit of discussion about the cedars in there. So, and it was shown basically as a split view window around those.
Okay.
So I did take a look at that. That area really, for the most part, had a lot of very good things in it. There was a lot of bayberry growing in there and coming up. There was some beach plum. We would be mostly looking at replacing the bittersweet and any of the more weedy type of vegetation that's coming up with a lot of annual weed species, and putting other things in there that would promote that area being able to be essentially maintained at around that same height without actually having to go in and manage it. Or at least manage it in a manner that would be pruning it or hedging it. Throughout this, the total areas for land management are around a half an acre. And within that proposal, we gave you 2 restoration plans that show the general layout of plants, as long as a plant list, as well as a plant list. We're looking at being able to replace over 300 woody species with just as many or more herbaceous pollinator species. And that's the potted stuff on top of the seed mixes that would be put down in any areas of exposed soils. Overall, we feel that this project provides a really unique and distinctive opportunity to be able to introduce a native plant community that we don't very often find on Cape Cod, and we also don't very often have the conditions to support it, it seems. So with that being said, I will let you ask whatever questions you want, and I will hope to provide you answers.
Okay, or modifications as might be required. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Jen, you and I spoke on when we were on the phone. I'm glad you went and looked at the site on the coastal bank, because that was a concern when we went out there with the trees. I'm not too concerned with Area 4 or Area 3, but I do have some and Area 2, you said you're leaving alone. It's just going to be the mitigation plantings and maybe some invasive management if there's bittersweet over there.
Yep, to
right?
make sure that those
Okay.
mitigation plantings continue to survive.
So I think the biggest discussion the board's going to have is about the Area 1 and the removal of the willows and a lot of the shrub material to create a wet meadow. So we're taking out one community and replacing it with a different one. I understand what you're trying to do, but it's a discussion the board's going to have. And I already voiced my concerns about losing some of the wildlife habitat value that is provided having a structured community along that pond's edge. And you said the willows were invasive gray willows, hybrids. Were there any native willows in there?
There were, and I can give me 1 second to review the notes from
There
our
you had
conservation.
some of the trees were flagged with pink flag.
And those
there.
were just for survey purposes.
Okay.
They had no,
It
we
didn't
actually
look
probably
like,
should have
yeah.
pulled them off, but they had no meaning as far as
Okay.
content.
I wasn't sure if you were trying to call out a particular
No.
species. Okay.
No. We took a number of samples along that entire edge of various specimens.
Yep.
We were trying to, because willow species do readily hybridize, they are
Yeah.
extremely difficult to key out. We found the majority
yes.
of those specimens were hybrids. They keyed out to hybrids between native pussy willow and, they keyed out as native pussy willow crossed with gray willow and also some Salix babiana or bed willow. So there was a myriad of different things happening there with the willow, and we do have all the photographs and all the samples. If you would ever be interested in seeing them, I'm more than happy to submit that information to you, as well as the taxonomic keys that were used to identify those species. Overall, with the willow, we felt that the entire pond, essentially entire pond edge, has willow, various species growing densely around it. So we did not feel that the removal of a portion of those willow would overall impact that entire area, while we could, while we would be able to introduce, and I know you're talking about stratification in the upward sense, we as well felt that providing that herbaceous community did provide another level of stratification, but just in a different manner.
Okay, so you're saying you're not removing all of the willows?
No.
Okay.
Within this.
I think that's where we.
She's removing all of the willows
All
in
of
that
the willows
zone,
in that
not
zone.
all
Yeah,
of the
in
willows
that
around the
zone.
pond.
But not the ones outside of that view corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, within
Yeah.
Area 1, that would be the goal. The willow, however, complete a ring the entire way
Yep,
around.
and it's also up in that other little area 1 that's outside the view corridor.
Here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, those were the only comments. and questions and concerns the staff had when we went out there.
Courtney?
You described a variety of methods to, in your narrative about getting rid of particular invasives. Japanese knotweed and porcelain berry are both pretty stubborn. What methodologies are you going to use? You just sort of mentioned, wipe and so forth, but those two plants are particularly resistant to that kind of thing.
With the Japanese knotweed, you're absolutely right. It is probably other than swallowwort, I would say it is the most aggressive and resilient species that we deal with. With Japanese knotweed, what we've found to be the most effective treatment, that typically is the way that it's treated in the first year to 3 years, depending on the plant, is to inject it. So the stems are individually cut above the node, the first node on the soil, and then usually what you see with those stalks, and you can inject anything that's probably about the size of a pencil or larger. Pencil is on the small side. As you know, some of those stalks get very, very large. When you cut the stalk above the node, there's usually a kind of a thin membrane that goes in between that node, and you actually have to inject herbicide. You have to basically punch a hole through that and inject herbicide directly into the stalk. That method is how we typically initiate those treatments. Once we get into later years of treatment, a lot of what you're seeing in the regrowth is more witch broom type growth, so you're not getting these big, thick, dense stalks anymore. And when you get that smaller witch broom type growth, at that point we have to change our methodology to a low volume foliar application, because it's just not feasible to be able to inject them anymore.
So in other words, it takes you 2 or 3 years to...
We tell our clients it takes a minimum of 5 years of active management in order to get Japanese knotweed under control. And it depends on the area that it's growing, the density of the stand, how established the colony is, but a minimum of 5 years is a good solid standard.
And what about porcelain berry?
Porcelain berry, we actually have had fairly good luck in controlling porcelain berry. It seems to react similar to that of bittersweet, where if the vines are a little bit larger, we can actually cut and treat those. But it's a vine species just like bittersweet. It requires chasing it down. It requires, especially in that first season afterwards, being able to effectively manage any of the seedlings that are coming up from that seed bank. We use the same strategy, or we don't treat it any differently than we would treat Asiatic bittersweet.
I have no other questions.
No questions?
Paul?
In a nutshell, for a layman, taking out bad, putting in good, and kind of just augmenting what in area 1, what necessarily isn't super bad, but is on the other side of the pond, you're just changing that, and it's not just in the view corridor, it's also to the house side.
Yep.
Most of this, the plant species and things, I don't, I'm taking at your word and staff that, these things are gonna mesh.
We do, just so you know, we do, when we're doing our plant selections, we do use the county checklist, and we do choose plant species that are listed as being native to Barnstable County, and we use the 2011 version.
It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. When you have, as you said to Courtney, a 5-year program for the knotweed, and sometimes it's a lifetime.
Yes.
It's just, you could tell the stewards of the property are wanting to do even more. And historically, this house has been always a diamond in the rough. And
It's a very special place.
it certainly is. And between deer and coyote and black races that I've seen come all through here, there's a lot of activity that goes through this. And a lot of birds, a tremendous amount of birds. And that's where I'm part of Area 1. I'm not as I'm not as experienced, and as you said, on the other side of the pond, that community that exists wraps around a good 2/3 of the pond. This is actually about a third of the pond that you're wanting to deal with. I want to hear what other people have to say about it. I'm just curious as to, is it too much at one time? If this is just, it's very ambitious, it's a lot, and I don't know if maybe that was slightly downsized to manage it, and then in the future, maybe expand it some more. I just don't know.
One thing actually that I want to mention about that area one, there is a nice band of shrub border, native shrub border that is growing right adjacent along the pond edge. So I don't have a measurement on it, but I would say that about a quarter to a third of this width, closest to the pond edge, is intact scrub. So the management strategy there would simply be to remove invasives if they were present. So there is a chunk of that actually is good vegetation that doesn't really require a lot of active management. So just something to note. There's a lot of clethra and winterberry and other things there.
And that's where I'm a novice. Good plant, bad plant. I know knotweed, not good.
Knotweed, not good.
Well, there must be some place in the world that knotweed is good,
Yeah,
but not here.
Not here.
Tom, look at page 2, and you'll see where they have that area of natives delineated on the big area 1. You see that?
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Not a problem.
Mike?
If Tom is a novice, I'm a true neophyte here. So I'm going to have to rely, again, on all the members of the board. Jennifer, how do we handle the issue of measuring the caliber of trees? I didn't notice there's a number not shown on trees.
You could require the caliber inches of trees to be removed.
And just the, I mean,
But
they're
you do a
everywhere.
tree if it's
They're
greater
everywhere.
than, has a DBH greater than 5.
See, the definition of a tree,
You know,
regulatory definition,
Greater than-
is the diameter breast height greater than 5.
I didn't see any of the
And I'm not
willows in
sure
there
any
that
of those
got
willows are that big.
size.
No, they were mostly just
Sap.
multi-stem
so
Yeah.
the general
specimens.
trees, we don't have to
Well, I
flag
have
it.
that down on my list also to ask.
There are
I'll
no,
circle back to that one.
We'll circle back to that one.
I was gonna say there are no
This-
canopy trees, or at least not what we consider canopy trees on the site that are being touched or removed in any way.
But there are also none on your plan, and we normally require the trees that exist to be on the plan.
Oh, I see what you're
So that
saying.
when
Sure.
you come back,
Oh, sure. Yeah, putting the canopy trees, they just weren't part of the original survey. It wasn't information that we had available, but we didn't put them on the plan because we weren't proposing to do anything with them.
yeah,
But I
I mean,
understand.
you don't
your point.
normally, I mean, we see you fairly often, but when most people come in, we require all the trees within, from any work that's being done to the resource area to be put on, so that when you go back for compliance,
Sure.
you don't notice that,
You don't accidentally find a couple missing?
yeah.
We can,
Or in some cases, you find a half an acre missing
right.
of a
And
forest.
they use the definition of the tree just in the bordering vegetated wetland manual, 5-inch DBH
Okay.
greater than 25 feet in height.
We're more than willing to submit a tree inventory with you and put them on the plan if you
Yeah,
want. That's
well,
not
it's
an
just
issue
good to
at
have
all.
that as a record,
Sure,
as you well know.
I
Trees
do.
sometimes can disappear.
I do. Those are the types of projects that we get brought on to
Afterwards.
come back to you with.
Afterwards, yes.
Afterwards. So I'm very familiar with those projects.
And just as a comment before it's a magnificent, beautifully kept piece of property.
I would agree.
Tommy?
I don't have any questions. I also don't have really any concern with this project or all of it happening at once. I mean, it's in a unique spot where there's 41 acres of undeveloped land across the street, which provides lots of wildlife habitat now, so I think it could think that could kind of sustain that while this is growing. And I think this is just a huge improvement, and so much of the whole coast there is overgrown, that type of thing. And I actually live across the street and see deer at least once a week, and coyotes more and more all the time, and less rabbits, but I'm all for it. Those are my comments.
Mario?
First of all, I want to congratulate you on the planting plan. I think it's a great piece of work.
Thank you.
Virtually every species you've listed is native not only to Massachusetts, but to Cape Cod. Great diversity. It's got to benefit wildlife. It's really a nice plan. The stem borer, has that actually been documented as being on the site by Natural Heritage?
No, not yet. But if it is something that we observe while we're out there, we would be looking to take the same action as we did on the property in Chatham. It was not observed by or on Natural Heritage Endangered Species maps at that time, but we had our conservation biologist come out and document it and fill out the appropriate forms for observing those species and send it back to Natural Heritage. So that would be something we would be actively looking for.
So it hasn't been officially documented by
No.
Natural Heritage, so this is almost an overabundance of caution for you to go out there and look for.
Absolutely.
It's the presence of the water willow itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that threatened moth species, this is the host plant for that larvae. So if it's going to occur, it will,
And
this would be it.
Perfect time of the year to look for the
Yes.
hole right above the water line there where the adult moth comes out.
Absolutely. This is the right time of year when they're moving south.
Good.
That's it? I'm a little unclear about a couple of points. One is, and Jen, you could help on this?
Okay, 1 second, Madam.
Couple of minutes.
Oh, yeah. Stem borer, it's not a usual.
Water willow.
And water willow, these are new, these aren't regularly used terms.
I
Boxes,
didn't try to
Pool
pronounce.
boxes we have, and
Yeah, so I didn't
get
try to
all the
pronounce a
terms thrown
Latin.
in all the time. So my first question is.
Yep.
The view shed that's there, is that something that was proposed in a
Back in
previous order?
'06, yep. Back in
And-
November of '06, you guys reviewed this when there was an enforcement issue on the property.
Okay, well, my question, well, I have a couple of questions about it. One is, did I hear you say that one of the aspects of it was that within that view shed, it could be kept, the vegetation 4 feet or less?
4 feet.
So in the area of the view shed,
Yep.
where
Yes.
you're proposing to remove the willows and replace with
A myriad of things.
a myriad of things, but basically a shrub community.
An herbaceous and shrub community, yes.
Okay. That's consistent with that 2006 order.
Correct.
Okay. Below that, to the southeast portion of Area 1, southeast, that area, are you also proposing to remove willows there?
We are proposing to remove willow there, but it doesn't really have to do with the view in that area, because it's clearly outside of it. We were just hoping to be able to extend that, that shrub border and that herbaceous community further down the property. Why?
Yeah. I mean,
Because-
here's how I look at it. So, you know what all the plants are. I understand about ecological succession. And were you not to do anything with this community that you're replacing it with, it's gonna turn back into a willow community. That's what's gonna happen with the willow seeds that are all around there. I mean, that's the next successional stage.
Yep, and well, one thing that I think might get at your question a little bit is this deck area, these property owners and their families use extensively through the summer months. So a part of this being directly adjacent to it with the inclusion of some of those herbaceous plants, we're also including pollinator species and wildlife and more colors. So it's something that for them is an aesthetic enjoyment, which is why that portion of that area was included even outside what their view is this way. So,
See, well, I understand, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all that you say that. And my concern is with people, I don't mean these clients, but any client, anywhere, any applicant that comes in is allowed a certain view area. And there are a lot of areas where you could say, well, I'd like to remove that oak forest and replace it with, like a grassy field which was here 100 years ago. And, oh, well, if we don't manage it, in 30 years, oaks will be growing up there. Well, actually, there are a lot of, I mean, I'm sure you saw this all over the Cape. There are a lot of acorns last year, so there are a lot of little oaks that came up this year. But, so that's something I think we should talk about when we have deliberation about this, because that is an expansion of a view corridor.
I understand what you're getting
You
at.
see where I'm going?
Yep, I do.
Okay. And as far as you mentioned birds, the first thing I thought of when I walked there and I looked at that pond is, I would love to come in the spring, because I'm sure that's a good place for migrating warblers. It just calls that out.
It's, like I said, it's a very special and unique place.
Let me Japanese knotweed,
Yep.
absolutely. Hope you can get rid of it as soon as possible. And the only comments I had about the other areas
Yep.
were that, just to show trees on the plan, so we have
Yep.
a record of that. And you did say you're going to keep the junipers on the,
They were, when I reviewed that old order of conditions, they're shown on that old plan in locations, and those would stay.
okay. One other question. My one concern, my biggest concern about the removal or modification of the border by the west side of the pond is it's adjacent to a sloping lawn.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, good. Well, what would you like to tell me about it?
Well, one thing I'd just like to point out is that there is a fence that runs all along this portion of the property, and it was surveyed. So there is a boundary there and a definition between any sort of human use area and a naturalized area. So
Okay, and what's the next question I'm going to ask about it?
I'm not sure.
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen. You're with me.
I know where you're going with that. Fertilizer use.
If you had
So
fertilizer,
Betsy wants to know
I mean,
about fertilizer
that's a
use
nice
on the
lawn.
property.
It's not a turf lawn. It's actually a very beautiful lawn, but it looked really, really green.
I haven't personally asked the homeowner how they maintain their lawn, but I think that it is in your regulations that it should be maintained as a Falmouth-friendly
Well,
lawn. if I'm
would be,
correct.
yeah.
So,
But-
we were talking about willows, not so much lawns, but I understand your question and your concern.
Yeah, and so even during your restoration phase, I'm a little bit concerned with any kind of fertilizer runoff into the pond. So I think that could be a condition, but we could, there could,
It's already on. It's already on
yeah. I mean, you understand
Yep,
that.
I absolutely do.
And I think, you did address soil stability if necessary. And it is fairly flat, but the lawn just slopes up above
Yep.
it. And I'm thinking of some of these big, I just got back from a trip last night in Italy, and a walking trip.
Oh, I'm very
And we had
jealous.
well, it was fabulous, but on and off a couple of days with these torrential downpours. I mean, it was just incredible, and we get them around here too,
Yep, absolutely we do.
so. Okay, but it's a nice plan. There are a couple of little tweaks that I think, that we'll have to talk about, but in general, I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
I always enjoyed your presentation.
I
Always
try to
learn
keep them
something
as
new.
short as I can. I know you guys are busy.
Do you guys still want that canopy tree inventory?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so how long do you think it'll take you guys to do that?
if we can approximate the locations, it would take us less time. If we have to do ground survey, obviously that's a much larger expense and it will take a lot longer in order to get that work scheduled.
They usually survey.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then my next question about that tree inventory is there some sort of proximity within the areas that we're proposing management that we can establish that with the, I can't possibly give you a survey of the entire property.
I mean, my only concern is where you're actively going to work. We know where there
Yeah,
are
like up on
trees.
that slope along Area 4.
Area 4
Yeah,
and Area
right
5.
up in there,
in
Area
particular.
5 in that
Well,
area.
any areas where you're working.
I think that we do have, actually, I think we do have some of the canopy trees that are along the edge of this view, because that was how I think that view was established, so I think we do have those. Area 4 makes total sense to me.
Yeah, any areas where you're
I
going to be
don't-
doing active management.
I didn't see any that might qualify in Area 1, but just take a peek in there.
Sure,
There might be
we
a
can
big
go
one.
through
And
there.
I didn't seem that you had anything that was over 25 feet, so
Yep,
we had to come up with a definition, or surveyors were going to be chasing saplings all over the property, so.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And probably up in like Area 3 if there's any larger trees in that area.
Yeah, there are a couple that's along the,
Yep.
on the edge.
Yeah, we don't want to survey the whole property.
No,
Please,
that would take so long and be so
No.
expensive.
Yeah.
We-
No,
that's
any areas
not-
where you're gonna be working, so
Sure.
that when you go back for compliance. And the other, suggestion that I'm gonna make is that you choose, you know, this can be determined between you and staff, but choose a number of sites, say a dozen sites, to take photographic
Yep.
monitoring.
And actually, we've started doing that on some of our larger projects. We actually have, I wish I would have thought to bring one. They're essentially aluminum hub markers. They're about this big around, and they go over the end of a half-inch piece of rebar. And they say Wilkinson Ecological Design, and they say station points on them.
Yeah.
And so we can actually stamp them.
Yeah, that's exactly,
go
so
back.
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Sure,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's not a problem. We like doing that
But
even
it's useful for you.
internally.
Yeah,
Right, because when our maintenance crews come back, we can get consistent photographs of the project from specific vantage points, so we can then show progression of
Right,
those
right.
exact same
And you-
photographs.
I mean, Seth has given talks where he's shown successional pictures on coastal bank restoration.
Right, exactly.
But it's all, and that's another verification of tree was there in year
Yep.
1, year 2, and it's gone in
Absolutely,
year 3.
absolutely.
And there might be a reason, it might have been, let's hope not, but a hurricane. Yeah,
It happens.
it happened.
So how long? We need
Yeah,
to-
how long,
Oh,
how long do you need?
honestly, Tom Bunker left. He would be the guy to ask. And I think, based on what I know about his workload, I would say that we would want to continue for probably a month. I don't think it would be feasible to get you a plan in time for another hearing in 2 weeks.
Okay.
However, that works out with holiday schedules and everything.
We go from the 31st of October, like we have the 23rd, the 31st, and then or the 30th, I'm sorry, and then we jump to the 20th of November. They
Okay.
don't meet the first 2 weeks in November because
So maybe
of-
Halloween.
I was gonna say, let's shoot for the 30th of October.
no, we can shoot for that, and then-
I'll try to twist Tom's arm.
Okay.
On behalf of the applicant, I'd like to propose a continuance to October 30th.
Second.
Okay, any other questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay. Motion and second on the table for continuance to October 30th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Courtney.
Unanimous, so moved. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Little melt
Thank
thing.
you.
You'll get home a
Thank
much
you,
more-
Jen.
more reasonable hour tonight.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Would we continue that to October 30th?
October 30th.
Yes.
Isn't that Halloween? No, the
No,
31st is
31st
Halloween.
is Halloween.
Betsy.
Hey, I have to look forward to something.
We're
I
wearing
just got back from vacation. I have to,
Who doesn't know when Halloween is? That's what she was saying.
oh, 30 days has September, April, June, and November, not October. See, I didn't go through that.
Her birthday is.
Oh.
Just said.
Well, that's a good thing to know. Okay, vote orders of conditions. We ready?
Yes.
Now the question, yes, I was going to say, before I start
Stop me
reading,
on that one.
does someone have the quorum?
I do.
I have
Okay.
a question.
Oh, you have a question?
The date after, is that the date you have to have the decision by?
No.
That's the first date we can
No.
vote the decision. What we always do is, we never vote the day we close the hearing.
Right, he was explaining that to me.
Right.
Then you have 21 days to.
You have
write a
21 days, this is the first week after. So in other words,
This date
this
is
is
the
the
second week,
This is the second week after.
So we voted the second week.
to make sure we meet the 21 days.
Right.
Tommy, Mario, Mike, Betsy, Tom, and Courtney on this one. Pondlet Place.
44 Pondlet Place.
Tommy, Mario, Mike, Betsy, Tom, and Kurt. I think it's gonna be the same for all of them.
Well, unless somebody missed a previous hearing.
Betsy, Tom, Court. Courtney's not on that one, but other than that, Courtney's not on Benji Street, he's gonna be on the rest of, oh, well, he's gonna be on the rest we vote tonight.
Do we need to do any of the ones from last week?
No,
Might need it, basically.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna find out.
Can't go. No, I'm not going. Oh, I'm just saying, might need it. The quorums.
You're always needed, even if you're not voting. 44 Pondlet Place.
Are you, all you guys gonna be here next week?
Yeah.
Oh, you are needed for one.
I thought so.
No, why is that one okay? and these are not?
Was everyone here last week except me?
I was not here.
Oh, so two of us weren't here. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Tom, you were here, we're missing you on this one.
Tom or Tommy?
Tom, on the end of Narragansett.
That was last week,
That was last week, yeah.
last week, so
You're not needed, Michelle.
Oh, no.
Okay, 44 Pondlet Place. Proposed house, this is the one where the patio is right up against that limit of work, but you guys seem to have a
They're
comfort
gonna
level
have
with
a-
that.
They're going to have a split rail fence.
Yep, split rail fence on that. And we're just choosing the
I
plant
have a little
species that
problem.
he has down in there.
Wait a
Mario,
second.
you had made a comment about all the,
I have a problem on the split rail fence. Everyone here said, just leave the split rail fence where it is, but it isn't actually right on the boundary. And so if we're going to leave the split rail fence,
What do you mean leave it? There's nothing there.
This is all new, it's proposed. at the
This
limit of
isn't a
work.
vacant lot.
This is a wrong lot. This is right on the
and that's where the
inside-
fence is proposed,
On the inside of the limit of work.
but it is proposed right at the boundary.
Yeah, because I was,
All
the
right.
staff had concern about, you know how I love these limits of work.
No,
They're
no,
either
I-
non-existent or 2 feet.
I know, but, well,
Patio.
it's within, it's only a straw bale width difference. But all I'm saying is, the fence, there should be a condition that the fence remain, that they need to have permission to take the fence out, because the reason
Oh, I see what you're saying.
keeping the
Yeah.
fence is because it is
A designation of where,
designating where
where the
this
lawn
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if
Got
they
it.
are gonna take it out, they have to put some other kind of designation.
yeah,
That's my point.
yes.
Thank you for everyone.
no, and
clar-
then
clarifying
replanting the species. Mario, you were concerned with the invasives that are down in that area? Because they're proposing to plant an area that's disturbed, but it's completely almost overgrown with,
Porcelain
porcelain
berry.
berry down there,
Porcelain
pokeberry.
berry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
porcelain berry. So, at this point, they haven't decided to do a restoration plan in that area. They are just proposing to, plant native plants, so we'll come up with some native, shrub material for them to put there, although it'll probably get taken over within
Very rapidly
a
within the season.
year, so.
Yeah, but
They
this is
should,
also,
we did ask them to look at doing a restoration plan, and they came back with, not at this time.
That would be a next
yeah, that
phase.
would be probably after the house was built, then they'd might get all that. Motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
Just a question.
Yeah,
You know, this is, we run into this a lot, and if the goal is to establish a healthy area buffer, and the area is already overrun with,
no, the goal is to have a woody buffer. If it's overrun with invasives, it's overrun with
then
invasives.
that's okay.
Well, it's better than not having anything there.
No, true.
Yeah, but we can't require people to
Yeah,
take out
except
their
what I'm
invasives.
concerned about is when you have plants like boysenberry and a lot of these other ones, they're gonna choke out what gets planted.
Well,
And then there's nothing there.
no, there's porcelain berry.
Yeah, hanging on dead plants. And that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to have an invasive buffer than not to have any buffer.
No, I understand.
And for someone to come in and, in this particular lot, to completely do a restoration, they're gonna have to hire somebody like Wilkinson to do a restoration plan, because that would be a complex project. Or you could do like what I do, and go every 2 years and try to pull all the vines out of my trees, and get poison ivy every other year.
You got it bad this year.
I did, yeah.
You did.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve this as discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Yes.
230 Acapasket Road, East Falmouth.
This is the raise and rebuild where they wanted to cut into the coastal bank, and the board was unhappy with that, so they took that portion of the project off. Teresa had come up with the plan to reestablish that buffer near the salt marsh, because they were required to do the salt marsh for the dock. The board wanted, Michelle, you wanted oaks instead of the tupelos.
Am I on this one?
Oh, maybe.
Well, at
I
some
do
point-
remember wanting oaks instead of
I know.
tupelos.
No, sorry.
Okay, but
So Michelle wanted
Still.
oaks instead of tupelos, that was discussed. They took the wall off, they took the grading of the coastal bank off.
Right.
She did revise the buffer plan to the salt marsh to reflect some of the board's concerns.
I would like half the plants to be oaks.
Okay.
Her discussion was
They
about-
were looking
Jen,
for, what?
her discussion was about some of the species of oak there appear to have oak borer.
Yes,
And so my suggestion is oaks that, there are at least 2 species, pin oak and white oak, that haven't had it yet, that those be the species.
okay.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna have them plant that buffer prior to the construction. And
Yeah, Courtney.
nuclear
You
fixation
mentioned that.
cut bank and that. We're gonna need, Blue Flax is gonna need to submit us a new plan, because she didn't submit the plan. She still had the cuts and the grading on the coastal bank on her plan.
Right.
And so we're gonna get
And
rid
the
of that. And we asked for documentation on the irrigation system. And that'll be a special condition too.
Right.
Motion to accept.
And they haven't submitted that documentation?
Not yet. I don't believe so. Did he submit that at the hearing?
No.
I didn't
No.
We
think so.
still discussed.
No, so they haven't submitted it. I mean, would that have any bearing on our decision?
It's a special condition.
Well, if
It's
they
a
wanna
special
keep that
condition.
irrigation system, they better tell
They
me
have
when
to
it was
show-
installed.
They have to show that it was installed,
Yep.
legally installed.
Okay.
Motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept the order as discussed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Vineyard Street, East Falmouth.
Uh,
Beach management.
That's the beach.
Oh, beach management.
Yeah, this is the beach management one. Basically, it mirrors every other beach management plan the board has seen, although you did have an abutter that was a little concerned with all of the snow fencing. And I do believe that, didn't Mr. Borselli remove the snow fencing?
He didn't
He
remove it.
didn't
said they
remove it,
weren't-
they
They may
Yeah.
not do it.
may not do it, it's,
I mean, it
it's,
costs a
The-
lot of
The
money.
snow fencing's an option,
Yeah, and it costs a lot of money.
exactly.
so.
And they, you know,
I wasn't sure if there was anything that, in the hearing that the board was concerned with.
no.
I thought we removed that option for snow fencing.
I think Mr.
Entirely.
Yeah, I
Velocity took it
thought
off. Yeah,
that's what
Mr.
I-
Velocity took it off,
All right,
took it off.
so then,
There you go.
no snow fence.
No, I think
he
he
did
stood
have
up there and
And
said,
said
I'm
that-
taking it
Yeah,
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 we're gonna
out.
be
and-
get
Yeah,
rid
if
of
they
it.
want it, they'll come back
They'll
and
come
ask
back.
for it.
Okay,
Tommy,
There you go.
Tommy pointed out, like we have in recent ones, that
oh, the 10% of the rack line is to remain, yep,
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 We should just make sure that that's written in that way.
yep.
motion to accept the order is discussed.
Second.
Susan, that's WRACK
Oh, thank you.
line. Don't you feel like you know a lot about coastal
Stuff.
terms now? Stuff?
I'm learning.
We learned
Yeah,
all about
you
the
are.
water willow stem borer today,
I know about that
threatened moss.
106 Ransom Road.
Mario used to make me look for it.
106 Ransom Road.
Quorum.
Is this one you're not on?
Same quorum.
You
Is
said
that
Courtney
Michelle?
wasn't on one of them.
No, Courtney's on all of them.
Okay.
Somebody just forgot to write Courtney's name down.
So
Or wrote Tom's name down. Ransom Road, beautiful project. They're just slightly modifying the footprint.
Right.
Very
Oh,
easy.
yeah,
and-
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just that-
They're
Sam
actually
slightly
removing-
modifying the footprint,
Yeah,
Dan
that
Celine
was
with the
fine.
plantings.
Fine.
Motion to accept the order is discussed.
Second.
All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Do you have any of the others?
No, I'll do those,
Okay.
we'll do those next week.
Tell you what,
And you have enough, everybody's going to be here?
I don't know about,
You're not
look
going to
at,
be here?
One of
no,
the
I'll be in
quorums,
the, you're gonna be okay without Michelle next week?
If everybody else is here, we will be
Okay.
okay with
Are
that,
you here?
Michelle.
Yes,
All right.
as far as I know.
Courtney, Mike, Mario, that's who I need. So all not in agreement that you guys are gonna be here. Tommy's off the hook, Michelle's off the hook, Betsy's off the hook.
And I'm not going to say what you call us.
She wants a nod from you.
Thank you.
Other business, Route 151, conservation parcel east of Nickelodeon.
Yes, I believe Hamilton Tree and Landscaping was before the planning board last night, finalizing their plans to acquire the property on 151 for the business. You have a piece of property abutting 151. You should have all have a letter in your packets from Jeff Hamilton, and they basically would just like permission. It's the weird little parcel, if you look here, for those of you that don't have it. Here's the Nickelodeon, here's the parking lot in the back, there's the parking lot in the front.
it's a whole strip.
You know what I'm talking about, right? So for Mike and Tom and Mario back here, we own this property. So what Hamilton Tree is requesting to do is there's a lot of garbage. That's the theater.
They want
There's
to
a
clean
lot
up
of
the garbage.
garbage and concrete and asphalt, and they've asked to
Oh, all right.
be able to oversee or have some sort of stewardship on the property to remove
That
the,
asphalt out of it.
get the asphalt
And you
out
know
of there.
what?
They said at no cost to them, though, is it?
Yep, they are asking Lawrence Lynch if they can dispose of the material at Lynch's yard. They don't have any issue, according to Dave Salter, with the hauling of that. They're not proposing to replant at this time, but if they do want to come back in the future and plant with native species, they will put a letter request in to this board.
Yeah, that's good. So they're taking out abiotic,
Yes,
man-made
absolutely.
stuff that's there, cleaning up some
Yes.
conservation.
Yeah, a little slight regrading, they said, of the area along the road, because there's a big dip in
Yeah.
right there.
Big
So,
puddle, as I
yes,
remember.
Puddle forms.
You and I were out there at one point
Yes.
in that big puddle, near that big puddle. Yes.
Actually, I think we
I'd
were-
like to make a motion to allow Hamilton Tree to be the steward
Yep.
of that strip of property. And I would also publicly like to say that there is
Thank you.
stewardship available on other conservation properties as well. And to have a local business step up and offer their services is greatly appreciated. But it is not the only property that is available for stewardship.
Recognizing that the responsibilities of stewardship are to check in with Conservation Commission if there's going to be any modification.
That would be my-
Okay, so there's a motion
I'll second.
to allow Hamilton to do it and to ask them to be stewards of that. Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I,
Courtney's read the minutes
I
of
have
October
read the
2nd.
minutes. As a matter of fact, I was so overcome last Monday when the minutes were
Came
sent
right
to us.
away.
Yeah.
I even read them in Italy.
Yeah, I read them
And I
right
wasn't at the
away.
meeting.
And I was just so surprised about it that I forgot that I'd read them. But I recall that I read them. They are in order, and I suggest that we, or propose that we accept them
And when you
as
were
written.
impressed as usual
I
with
was
Susan's
impressed.
thoroughness.
I was. And I was
Susan
impressed with
did
the
the-
speed at which they came out.
And
3
Mel
gold
started-
stars.
And
3
Melanie,
gold stars. for
3
that
gold
effort.
stars.
Wow.
Okay, there's a motion
Second.
and a second on the table to accept the minutes of October 2nd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
I'll move to adjourn.
Great,
Well,
not yet.
before we vote on that, we are going to be having one less familiar face. We have a new face in the audience that we're going to be blessed with.
Who's
And-
thrilled to be joining this
That's
group, I can
exciting.
tell.
Yeah, so, but sadly, we are going to be saying goodbye to Michelle. And I want to thank her for all the knowledge you've shared with me and education that you've given to me. And it's a pretty selfless thing to be on this board, and your commitment and your professionalism has always been there.
Thank you very much. Well, it's certainly been a pleasure being up here with all of you for 6, 7 years. It's
7 years almost.
It's crazy. I've learned a lot from all of you and from our applicants that we see. And I mean, staff is so great. It's funny, I've had experience with other conservation commissions, and it just makes me appreciate this one that much more because we do a lot, both staff and the board itself. So it's been great. Thank you. And good luck. And maybe I'll be back in front of you and you can beat me up.
Oh, we will.
And we will, we'll
Meantime,
certainly
thank
take
you.
that opportunity.
No, I'll send somebody else from there.
You have the privilege of making a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn. Final time.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to adjourn, and I think we're going to, for everybody who can make it, adjourn across the street.
Very good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
They're all good shot, right?